I was getting ready to say good morning, but good afternoon. Today is Sunday, April 30th, 2023. How y'all doing? I was doing some stuff in the house. Today's Sunday, so cooking. Usually people plan their menus, but sometimes you just don't know what you feel for. You just don't know what you feel for. I know I want something different today. We'll give this a few. Click like, click share, and subscribe, and see if you like my page. My name is Sugar. I have a store called sugarhasclothing.com. I also do finance and do other stuff like inform people of what's going on out there. It's grown into a little passion of mine, to let people know what's going on in my life, what's going on around them, to let them know they're not alone in their thoughts, because this world will make you want to make everybody look crazy, because you got things going on in your life that you can't explain to anybody else, and you want to explain it, but you can't, because certain people's not going to believe what's going on. Like some of the comments on my thing, lady, what are you talking about? First you're talking about this, and then you're talking about that. I'm explaining to the people out there who's going through what I'm going through, what's happening. You understand? Because when people come into your lives, they stalk you unknowingly to you. They set up cameras. They set up stuff on your phone. They download stuff on your phone. And they do all sorts of things. You understand? Yeah, stuff like that do happen. Stuff like that do happening, and stuff like that is happening. You understand? I mean, it do sound crazy, but it's not. And sometimes those kind of things are hard to explain. Those kind of things, like someone asked me, well, do you have any proof? Do you have any receipts? As far as the proof is, if they breaking into your house, they erasing the proof. And then if the people around you is in on it with them, they're not going to give you the proof. And if the police is in on it, you're not going to get the proof. Whatever proof you had is going to be erased. And then you're going to be looked upon as some crazy nitwit. So for you guys who don't understand what's going on, NYPD is going in on people. I'm a former corrections officer, and I love my job. And while I was working, I would hear people complain about officers, not just NYPD, but other officers. And I wouldn't believe it, because I usually give people the benefit of the doubt to explain things. And plus, since I was in the field, I didn't really see much of that. So I didn't really believe, that it was a widespread problem. It became a widespread problem when I started going through it with my superior officers and my co-workers for no good reason. It's just that certain places, they have cliques, and ever since I was young, I don't like belonging to nobody's clique. You understand? Because when I first came into this country, I'm from Trinidad. When I first came into this country, I was a little girl. And I went into school for the first day. Well, in Brooklyn. And I had a bad incident with this little girl. And the teacher told me to sit down, and it was the only empty seat. So she didn't want to move her bag. So end of story is I moved her bag because the teacher kept saying, take a seat, take a seat. And I'm like, there's no other seats but this one. And she's telling me that, the seat is for someone. And the teacher said, nobody's for the seat. So she told the young lady, move the bag. The young lady didn't want to move the bag. So she kept pressuring me to sit down. So I moved the bag, put it on the young lady's desk, and I sat down. Then she leaned over, I'm going to see you at the end of the day. So that was my first experience. So when I wanted to be in law, so eventually I became an officer. So when I became an officer, I was sexually harassed by a woman. And, she was like, oh, why don't you try it? And so me and my slick mouth, I'm like, try what? I thought you was born that way. And I said, no, I prefer men. She had a child, so I guess she tried, she experienced it and liked it or whatever because she stayed lesbian. And she told me that's what it was. She said that her best friend turned her onto it. And her best friend became her lover. So anyway, I'm like, listen, I don't want to try anything. That's not for me. Whatever floats your boat, you do you. Well, I don't know if you know anything about lesbians, but they do not take rejection lightly. Very well, I mean. They're worse than men. So I say that story to say that there was a clique ensued. Because even though we graduated or whatever, it went on into the jails. And somebody put her in the same jail as me. She started following me around, and she would have a nervous breakdown when she see me talk to other officers, male or female. A couple of times she saw me talking to female officers, and she threatened the female officers and myself. So then I had to sit there and explain to the officer, don't pay her no mind, whatever. So anyway, I say that to say that a clique ensued. So now that I rejected her, she started telling all the lesbians that I didn't like lesbians. And they bullshit and so on and so forth or whatever. So then the clique started. So then I was talking to, there was an officer that liked me and I liked him. And we started seeing each other, so to speak. We started getting to know each other, so to speak. So when this other officer saw me and the other officers started knowing each other, she informed me that she was dating this guy. So I stepped back. How she informed me, we was all online because in the morning you have to sit down and roll call. You have to go to roll call. I went to roll call. I was standing up. He came right next to me and he stood next to me. We was talking. And then roll call started, so we wasn't saying nothing to each other. She always comes late, so she came in late and plopped herself right in the middle of him and I. No room, but she plopped herself. So that was kind of a signal, She gave me the signal that whatever. So I asked him, he said no. I said, okay, fix your situation. I'm not getting into it, whatever. So I left the situation, and I guess he tried to handle the situation. Couldn't. So he left the jail because he didn't want to be around her anymore. So do you know that officer started stalking me? What does it have to do with NYPD? Because there are cliques. You understand? The cliques in jail. So after that happened, her aunt is a dep. And then I was approached by one of the deps to bring in drugs to the jail. I told her no. I mean, that was a nice way, but I told her no. And I'm not doing that. So then one person who don't like you joined in with another person who don't like you. So now the Dep don't like me. Then she has a aunt that's a Dep. So therefore, all of them got together with the clique. Later on, I found out that the two Deps had drug cartels in the jails. Right? So I left the department. Well, forced out the department, and the problems that I was having inside started coming outside. So I moved my area. So one guy found out where I was living, and he started telling everyone where I lived. So all this stuff started happening. So later on, I found out that some of the people that lives around me was into drugs. Listen, that's not my thing. If that's your thing, fine. It's not my problem. I mind my business. I grew up in the hood. I mind my business. But what when it came my business was that he was stalking me, but he switched it around and he told his baby mother had a brother or cousin that worked in the police force next to me. So they came to me and threatened me. So I don't pay anybody any attention with their threats. Because you're a living human being like me. You wear a badge, I don't give a fuck. You come to me with your thuggery, I don't consider you PD. I consider you a thug with a badge. So, they came after me, whatever, every little thing. You park, they want to give you a ticket, they come up. When you call because the neighbor's harassing you, they don't want to come or whatever. So, and then when you want to go to down there to make a complaint, they don't want to complain. They don't want to take your complaint. Meanwhile, the people who is doing whatever is their family. So see, one little thing turned me on into what's really going on with PD. Now, around where I live at, for some reason, there's a lot of people who are squatters. Squatters are somebody moved into the place and then later on they can claim it. After 15 years or so, they can claim it. So a lot of people were squatting and a lot of people claimed it under the time zone because they heard that the person who owned the property was coming after the property. Ergo, the police. Every time somebody moves out of a place over here, the police is squatting because they have relatives around here. So they're squatting in all these empty houses, wanting the empty houses to own them in the future for their children, I guess, and want to claim it later on. So then they started threatening people, started scaring people off, started using their badge so nobody would either look at it or try to buy it or what have you, or try to claim it as their own property. This is their new retirement plan. Their new retirement plan is to have their family squat in property that is not theirs. They just put in furniture. Once a month, they come look at it to pretend that it's theirs, or they live there. And then 15 years from now, their kids move in, or they claim the property, or they go downtown and go to the building department. But what happened? Some of them didn't wait 15 years. Some of them waited a shorter time than that. So they got some real estate person that's in their clique to fraudulently write paper up, paper up to own the property. So they started doing from one house to the next, and they're doing it in other areas too. So I decided to move. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move or whatever. So they found out where I was moving. So they went all the way out of state in the state I was gonna move to and kind of got one of their Spanish friends or their Indian friends to get that property. So anyway, then it got deeper than that. It got deeper that they started threatening some young men to run drugs for them. I'm like, really? Yeah, they would force these young men to run drugs for them or arrest them on something. You understand? So when a young man it's usually young black men, let me put that in, young black men, they would force them to do it, or they would, what's the word? Threaten them that if they don't, they're gonna charge them with something. Ergo, my son. Well, ergo, my ex-boyfriend. They did that to my ex-boyfriend. When he said that he didn't want to do that because, he wants to be a pastor. The same guy that I was having problems with, his sister, accused him of rape. And for a couple of years, they was going around saying he's a rapist and he's this and he's that. And come to find out that this is not her first rodeo of blaming a black man of rape. Because the precinct around here, because remember I told you that his brother and his ex-wife know someone in the precinct. So anyway, he was blamed for rape and he didn't do anything. And years later, she confessed that the police made her do it because they said if she didn't lie, so they can get him to do whatever, that they would take away her child because she has a son. And her brother also confessed that, the family was in on it because he has a record and they was threatening him. Meanwhile, he started it, bringing the police in it. Now they turn it on him. Why? Because things got bigger than that. Some of these police officers are related to a couple of celebrities. So they're planning with their family to steal property, to force black men into servitude, or they're going to use their badge and use their badge and charge young men and young women to do their bidding for them. So one little thing turned into a whole scenario of corrupted cops. So then it gets even deeper. So the person that I was having a problem with is Spanish, but his brother-in-law is Indian. Then one of the squatters, his wife is Indian. So they came up with the idea of taking over the West Indian islands. Because, in certain West Indian islands like Trinidad and Guyana, it's almost predominantly Indian. And they don't do anything for the black community at all. They come, they pillage, they stay to themselves, and that's it. They put their people in power so they can take the land, They can take the businesses. Now they want guns in these islands. So the black people in these islands, and I guess Jamaica, you know, some people in these islands, the black people in these islands, been saying it for years. It looked like the Indians want to come take over. But when I was young, I never really had any problem with them. So, I'm like, oh, they're just part of our thing. But I'm watching on YouTube, and every time they mention Trinidad, they go straight to the Indian area. They don't show any black traditional food. They only show like doubles and curries and this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we eat that as snacks. We don't eat that for dinner unless you have a curry chicken on a Saturday or something, or roti on a Saturday. But that's not our daily meal. Not for black Trinis anyway. You understand? We eat that as snacks or lunch. But every time I watch these YouTubers, for the most part, they are advertising Trini food as only Indian food. Because mentally they're taking over people's minds. You understand? And in Guyana also, because Guyana right now is half of half. Trini is like, I think it's 30 or 40% Indian. I don't know how much it is in Jamaica. So they came up with the idea because weed is getting ready to be legalized in Trinidad. And Trinidad is a hub culture. It's close to certain weed ports like Venezuela and certain areas where the ships and stuff have to travel through Trinidad to get to other countries, because Trinidad was a main port at one time with the slaves and all that stuff. So it's always remained that. So they came up with the bright idea of the police department, the NYPD police department. So now they spreading their garbage to other states and other little countries. So the police department, the Spanish and the Indians, and now whoever is joining them, the Latino and the Latina and the Indian from India, not Indian with the feather, Indian with the dot, came up with a creative idea of, why don't we go down to Trinidad and take over the sect, the area? Because they heard in Trinidad that the weed culture is getting ready to be legalized. So they started communicating with Trini Indians, and they've been getting help. You understand? So now they want to push the gun thing. They want to push this thing. A whole bunch of Latino and Latinas keep going down. Besides Venezuelan. Venezuelan has always been cooperative with Trinidad. I'm talking about Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. You understand? All of a sudden, they going down there, checking out Trinidad. So I'm like, okay, so what do you think? So now, since his brother-in-law is Indian, they all got together and thing with the police department that the Caribbean island is going to be next stop to go take over. So they helping the Indians take over these West Indian islands, and they're going to take, and the Spanish is going to take control of the drug culture in all the islands, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, whatever. Meaning the weed culture, because in Trinidad it's not really hardcore on coke or anything like that. It's, usually West Indian islands are hardcore on weed. Is the Latin countries is hardcore on the coke and the heroin and stuff like that. But like I said, it's a port. Everything all the ships and stuff got to pass through our country to get to certain other countries. You understand? So it's a port. So they going around talking, oh yeah, we can go here, we can go Guyana, and send all the blacks over to Tobago, and the Indians can stay on Trinidad, take it over, and then eventually they'll chase off the blacks from Tobago and take over, inch over. So the black people said, no, it's not happening. They said they knew eventually they would try, but they was trying to be non-judgmental. Maybe they was paranoid, they said, so they just left it up to fate. So now they see it where the Indian culture is trying to take it. And it's hard because a lot of Trinis are mixed with Indians, like myself. You understand? 1/4 Indian, 1/4 Spanish. So it's hard for us to accept because most of us are mixed with either one, Spanish or Indian. But it's either do that or get pushed out because they're pushing us out. They're getting all the businesses. They don't hire no blacks. And when the blacks try to get business, they plop somebody else of their culture next to that person with black, selling the same thing. So the black people in Trinidad can't, see their way out of how to, combine with these people without being pushed out. So they said, all these years we try to get along, but now they blatantly showing us that they want us out. They want us away. So, since Trinidad was first populated by blacks, the blacks said, no more. We want them out. Because Carnival, you don't see them partaking in nothing Trinidad. You don't see them taking nothing. They have their own little separate stuff going on. They separate themselves. They separate themselves. You hear? And at Trini Feds or anything like that, you don't see them. They have their own little Indian stuff going on. So they said, okay. So now they said, we're not going to buy from them. We're not going to rent from them. We're not going to do nothing from them because they take all our money and they don't want to put it back into the community. So now the blacks in Trinidad and hopefully Guyana says enough is enough. They're not gonna feel racist because they're the one that's outwardly showing their racism, but people is gonna call us as black Trinis racist because we're outwardly saying it. We're outwardly saying it, but we're not in power. You understand? So now they see blatantly what's happening. All stem from NYPD and the neighbor with the Indian brother-in-law. And nobody believes that. But it's true. Because I know a lot of powerful people. So, they was listening to some of my conversation. So when they hear when NYPD, because what happened was they was using their badge to start monitoring me and monitoring people around that they deemed that had something that they want. What I had, I don't know. All I was doing is trying to keep myself busy because I'm a retiree and coming up with business ideas. So every business idea I come up with, all of a sudden, NYPD is coming up with it. At first I just thought it was the neighbors. But NYPD set up a station, for lack of terminology, around here somewhere, and where everybody in the neighborhood can see what I'm doing. Because I'm the target. I know all these people. I'm coming up with ideas for me and my family to make money. They don't want that. All they want is the information of what business I'm going into, my vendor, and they go call the people. And they not try, they do get it. And they get the information and the product that I'm selling. How do I know that? Because one time I was talking to a vendor, and the poor young lady was scared. And I'm like, okay, why all of a sudden your prices went up? Because she was charging me $30 for one item for shipment. And before, she told me the shipment was a certain price. So I said, how all of a sudden you're changing prices? And she tried to tell me, but she couldn't, because everything I type, they're seeing it. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? So it took me a while to find out that they're watching all the vendors that I'm dealing with, and they're watching what I'm typing and what I'm saying, whatever. So they see what she's telling me. So she couldn't tell me everything. So, so I pick up pretty easily. And then I found out that the police is threatening vendors not to sell to the regular public. Because after me, they started watching other people. First, it was a legal watch. They would go to the superiors and say, well, I think this person is doing something illegal. I don't know what they said, because I'm not doing nothing illegal. I don't know what they said for the superior officer to give them a search warrant and a surveillance warrant. So usually with surveillance, it's 3 months. It's supposed to be a couple of weeks, but the max is 3 months they can surveil you for. So every time the surveillance is supposed to expire, another neighbor complains. So they keep getting 3 months here and there from other neighbors. Then they keep coming up with other stuff that I'm doing, and they keep getting 3 months. So finally, one of the superior officers said, hold on, let me check this file. And found out they've been surveilling me for years instead of weeks. They'd be like, why are you surveilling this woman? What is it about her that you're surveilling? Because you made it seem like she was this big this and big that, and this is your first time getting warrants and stuff like that. Meanwhile, they come when I'm not here. So the supervisor said, no more. You're not going to get any more surveillance. And that's after a couple of years, ladies and gentlemen. For years, this went on, that the NYPD was surveilling me. But they wasn't surveilling me because I was doing anything bad. They started surveilling me on stuff that I was trying to do in my life. Because I'm a retiree, so I'm trying to make money. So I'm opening up my store. I'm into finance and stuff, so I'm doing that. And, other things. So then they because they been was messing with my son, but I just didn't know how to put it together. So they started messing with my son. Right now, I'm trying to find out which officer or which officers is threatening my son to go to all his friends' restaurant. Either the restaurant stop or I'm going to have it closed down. Because all of a sudden, my son started eating Spanish food. I mean, I'm the one that loves Spanish food. I'm the one that every other day I was ordering Spanish food or Haitian food or something like that. Not him. My son is into regular junk food, burgers and stuff like that. All of a sudden, everywhere he goes, it's Spanish now. So somebody told me that the Spanish officer threatened my son to either go to all the Spanish restaurants of his friend or Spanish businesses of his friend so he can bilk money off of the credit card. So when my son order a breakfast that costs $5, I'm getting bill of $10 and change, $14 and change. And Spanish places, they're usually cheap. I don't have to tell you that. So I keep getting, so they thinking, oh, it's low enough, she's not going to check. But I check everything on my credit card. So one time my son went to a gas station that he never went. My car takes certain gas, And the manufacturer recommended that gas station. And since I got that car, that's the only gas station that we ever went. All of a sudden, my son started going to a different gas station. Come to find out, one of his Indian buddies' family owns a couple of Shell gas stations. Then they doubling up the price. My son told me that he bought $25 worth of gas, and they charged $50 on my credit card. My son told me that he bought a sandwich for $5, and they doubled the price on the sandwich. So I called meanwhile, they telling my son not to tell me nothing. And I told my son, don't be afraid of no human that bleeds. Especially if they have a badge. Because if you don't say something, they're going to keep coming after you. You understand? They're more scared in you talking than anything else. So that's why they tell you don't say nothing to nobody or else. And I'm going to tell you something out there. Yeah, they're going to go after your family. And your family might get hurt. They're not going to die. They just trying to go after your family, maybe to send them to the hospital or something. I know it sounds callous or whatever. Just to make you more scared. You understand? Because my cousin's son ended up in the hospital. My cousin's 11-year-old. And he has an 11-year-old. And I hope the same thing for him. You understand? So they going after children. Meanwhile, that's what they blaming some of these people for. Going after children. Because nothing else was working. Because the superior officers would say, oh, that's two adults arguing. We don't get into that. Because NYPD don't get into neighbors quarreling anymore. That rule came into effect like 3-4 years ago. You know, that NYPD is not answering calls on neighbors against neighbors. Unless it's with a gun or something like that. You understand? Two neighbors quarreling, they don't respond to that anymore. So it had to be something that they tell these people. You understand? They tell their superior officers of what people is doing, but they don't tell the truth. So the thing that they do, they shake down drug dealers because it gets worse. So they're planning for their retirement, them and their family, because their whole family is involved, the wife, the kids, the cousin. Now it's become so blatant with these NYPDs because, you know, they cocky. I got a badge. You can't do nothing, bitch. I can get you fired on your own bullshit. I'm not going to be like you making up shit. I'm going to catch you in the fucking act. Especially you fucking with my kid. You understand? You got kids too. Because for some reason, they think their kid is better than my kid. Oh yeah, you should see. I remember when I heard they was messing with my kid, I started taking pictures of all the kids of the people who was bothering me. You should see this motherfucker huffing and fucking puffing. I know this bitch ain't fucking taking pictures of my fucking kid. Meanwhile, you got somebody going to my son and you threatening my son. Oh yes, they was pissed off. They said, how fucking dare this black bitch? I'm like, you fuck with mine, I'ma fuck with yours. I'ma get pictures. I'ma watch everything you do. I'ma notify the authorities and let them know what the fuck you're doing. You're putting drugs in your kid's backpack. You're putting drugs in your kid's toys. And that's how you deliver your drugs. Through your kid. When you want something in the neighbor's house, you put your kids through the window. You bust open the window. You have your contractor friend come and mess people's windows up to make it look like, you know. And then your kid break into it. Like when I shut my lights off, they go get their kid so their kid can sneak in the window. You understand? So you're a horrible father. All of you. All of you. So anyway, as the time went on, I'm hearing about NYPD and the plan. So now the Brooklyn unit, which is the 69th precinct, is running and telling all the other precincts about what's going on, what they're doing, what they're planning, whatever. So whoever's in on it, mostly the Spanish and the Indians or whatever. I'm not saying the other groups wasn't doing it before, but now they want to take over islands because their family is into the drug world. So the family called them and say, oh, straighten out that bitch. What bitch? Who? What bitch named Rhonda Gibbons, you gonna straighten out me? No. You're not gonna straighten me out. Unless you leave me and my family alone. That's the only way I'm shutting up and minding my business. Because you're forever threatening my son. You're forever threatening my mom. Because my mom is blind. And you forever want to threaten somebody in my family. And you go straight after the children in my family. So, as far as I know, and as far as I can see, that's thuggery. You a thug. But 9 to 5, you a cop. So, you still a thug. So, therefore, you got kids. You got a mother. You got a fucking father. You got a wife. You got a fucking kid. It's on and popping. I'm just saying. You can't go threaten people's children, and you can't go threaten people's parents because you have a badge. Then your shit gonna come flying out the closet. So that's why I'm finding out everything about you. So now their kids are being taken away from them, foster care. Because foster care find out they terrible parents. So it's on and popping. It's on and popping, Mr. and Mrs. Officer. So now they're using all they clicks to do other things in the bank, in the restaurants, in the food place where you buy stuff. So now all the Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and Indians is coming down on me. They never even came to me and said, not now, but before, and the Haitians, they never came to me and say, well, you know, that's an individual. I'm not going to go judge her or whatever. Just because that person was Haitian, just because that person was Dominican, Puerto Rican, and Indian. They started coming after me just because one of those 4 groups told them they don't like me. None of them ever came to me and asked me, what's the problem? They judged me on that their people is after me. And they all jumped on the bandwagon. Right now, they keep sending me fake bills for my lights. It's telling me that I owe $2,500 in lights in 3 or 4 months. Fake bill. I'm thinking I'm calling Con Ed. Because as you see, I'm always in the dark. How come every month my bill is $800? So I'm trying to call Con Ed thinking I'm talking to Con Ed. The cops have it where they downloaded something on the phone and it's going directly into a call center with only them and all their family members answering. Because at first when they was doing it, it was just a certain amount of people. The same people would answer all the time. You understand? They would have their family answer. But I recognize all the voices. You understand? So I used to be fucking with them. I'm like, well, what happened? You don't have any black people working for you? Because it's a clique. It was Indian and Spanish. So they only want to have their clique do it. So every time I spoke to someone, they had a Spanish accent or a Haitian accent. Yeah, they was trying to throw me off by having a Haitian accent because then they started bringing in the Haitians or whatever. I'm like, listen, no disrespect, but I can't and with Haitians, they have thick accent. So I'm like, no, this is not where I'm calling. And Spanish, especially when you're from New York, you have that New York accent. So now what they try to do, they try to make themselves sound like they're white. The girls, that is. The guys just like, fuck it. My name is Reyes, Ruiz, or Gonzalez, or whatever. The guys are like, fuck it. I'm not changing my thing. But the girls, they try to blend in and fool me and act like they not Spanish. But I know. I can hear it. I can hear their dialect. Because now my antennas are up. So I'm listening to the way you speak. You understand? So that's how I found out that, I mean, not really, because you see all the gangster movies and you see the cops and stuff. But now I started to see how bad NYPD was. Because I was still trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I was still trying to call the superiors, to speak to the superiors. I even contacted the mayor and tried to tell the mayor what's going on. Because now you're threatening my son with rape and trying to set him up. You know, and one of the cliques took the complaint and called me. And she was cocky on the phone. Hello, this is Miss So-and-so and so-and-so. I heard you complaining about some police officers. Can you tell me who the police officers are and their badge numbers and blah, 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 blah. And that's after, for about 2 years, I've been complaining. Because 2 years I've been complaining, and the receptionist at the Civilian Review Board was cock blocking me. They wouldn't put in my report. But I kept calling and calling. Meanwhile, I'm calling them. I'm calling the FBI. I'm calling anybody. But with the FBI, when you call the FBI, the FBI, they call the local precinct that you're in. And guess what? The local precinct is who I'm complaining about. So for years, for about 2-3 years, I'm going around in circles till I figured it out. Well, till one of the FBI agents told me. They said, well, ma'am, certain things the FBI don't cover and whatever. And usually when we do cover it, we notify the local precincts and, ask them to look into it, blah, 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 blah. So that's how I started finding out that, but I kept calling back, and one, was it a lady? And one FBI agent, I guess she heard the desperation in my voice. And because all the cops probably was telling them, oh, she's crazy, because I've been to the hospital. Because they put you in the hospital to call you certifiable, so anything that you say will not be believed. And this is their tactic. Because when they were doing it to me, one of the hospitals told the officers, I'm not doing that today. I'm not doing y'all no favor. Take that shit somewhere else. You understand? And then they took me to a different hospital. So it's a tactic of the officer division, corrections, PD, transit, wherever. They certify you crazy. So therefore, anything that you say is not believed. So that's why some of the comments would say, oh, I see somebody's off their meds, because they're being sarcastic, because they are part of that clique. Because they know what they're doing is happening. You understand? So they want to be cocky. Oh, I see somebody's off their meds. Like crazy people, nothing happens to crazy people, as they want to call me. But the insiders know, because it's happening to them. So they putting their bills on my bill, their light bill. I'm always in dark. Why am I getting $800 electricity? I don't use my stove for like 4 or 5 years now, but I'm still getting a bill. The only how I'm using my gas is water to heat it up when I'm showering or cooking or something. I cook with my air fryer. I cook using my electricity. You understand? And my air fryer, for the most I would cook is half an hour. And so with my rice thing. Because that's what I cook with. I cook with my air fryer for my meats, and I cook with my rice steamer for my rice and my vegetables and stuff like that. I haven't used my stove in years. And they just now they want, it's been going on for years that they've been piling on their bills onto my bill. But like I said, they have people, either I'm calling Con Ed and I'm calling Brooklyn Union, or they sending me to one of the call centers that they have set up. So they have all this electrical stuff here. They told me that it's right here in my next door neighbor because he's closer, so he can get whatever signal closer because our houses is like this close, and that's another story. That's not his house. That's part of this house. You understand? That was supposed to be the office of the people who live here because this supposed to be a big property, but he steals property. But anyway, that's another story. Let the building department deal with that. They need to tear down that house because that house is not really a house. The building department had that house slated for demolition because it's not a house. It's not a certified house. It's part of this house. It's supposed to be my garage and my office. But anyway, PD is cock blocking. And then when the sheriff came to throw everybody out, because everybody filed, oh, this is my house, everybody went into foreclosure, the PD department contacted the people they know in the sheriff department, Spanish, and the Spanish people was tipping off the people in the Spanish sheriff office, who's supposed to be evicting, was tipping off people of what to do, what not to do, blah, blah, blah. So they still here. So anyway, not legally, but they still here. So anyway, NYPD is fighting to retire on regular citizen stuff that they do. They're using their badge to surveil you, and they having their people break into your homes and put in simple things like a fire alarm. Some of those fire alarms have cameras in them, and you have to know the difference. So when you see a fire alarm that looks different in your house or whatever, or you see two where it's not supposed to be or whatever, one of them is a sure thing. One of them that you came on PD's radar, now they surveilling you, or they have their neighbors watching you because maybe you're a business person and they want to know how you make your money so they can do it. So they don't just take over. They don't just notify the vendor. They notify the vendor not to sell to you. They be like, let her buy through me, which I would never do. Even this morning, a vendor notified me, and I know the prices because I've been doing it for a long time. I know the prices that a wholesaler is supposed to get. They doubling the prices. Just like the food, when my son buy his lunch, they doubling the prices. They telling me it's supposed to be this when I know it's supposed to be that. So I'm like, listen, there's 1,000 other vendors that sell what you sell. Thanks, but no thanks. You understand? And that's it. I don't curse them out no more. F you, blah, blah, blah. I don't do none of that. I pick certain things that I know the prices of. And I'm like, okay, how much is this? And I just want to see if I get a regular price, a regular wholesale price. And I pick a couple of items that I know the prices of, and I send it to them. What's the price? Meanwhile, I know PD and my neighbors is watching because they got their little surveillance stuff around here. So they tell me. So then they went to the length of, I have cameras all around my house. So PD went to the length of attaching my camera, jumping on my roof and going to the poles and stuff, and attaching my camera to all the houses so they can see what I'm doing. Plus, other PD departments, not departments, other PD offices or other traffic or transit offices. Any one of their clicks can see at a moment's notice. They can open up the app, see what's going on in my area, and that's it. That's stalking. And I just want to know every last one of their badges number and every last one of their names so I can sue them. Because you're not supposed to be stalking me. Show me the paperwork that you got, that you've been stalking me all these years, and you don't want to stop. Anything you do is not official, and anything you bring up in court is not official. You're just going to be proving my case. So I can do and say anything that I want to do. Even if it's outside. Because how you find out outside, you're connected to my cameras. Because some of my neighbors don't get the view that I get. So when one brave police officer last year went to them and said, why are you connected to this woman's cameras? Because I also had cameras in my home. So before I knew that the cameras are set up, people were seeing me in my house. You understand? So finally, one brave officer asked them, so why are you hooked up to her camera? So some bitch gonna tell him, oh, she got all the good views of the block. Okay? So still remove your shit. I didn't give you permission to connect to my cameras. The same way you stalk me, you can go put cameras up wherever you want. You don't have to connect to my cameras. You don't have to connect to my electricity. Why? Because like I said, they are all squatters, so they don't have any light bill. And the one who do have a light bill, he's still connected to mine. You understand? He tries to read my meter, and then he adds on to whatever. I don't call in my meter. I let them tell me what's on my meter. But somebody in Con Ed is continuously putting people's bills on my bills, and they think it's cute. They think it's funny. Yeah, all of them. They get a laugh out of it. They get a laugh. I told them this morning, get your shit off my shit. Or they're going to do one of them, because she loves going to court. She is forever trying to dig in my pocket. She runs down to the precinct. She runs down to court. Her and her daughter and her kid file little menial lawsuits to get money. Meanwhile, you're doing wrong, but you want money out of me. Why? Because I text you something. How about you connected to my shit for years and you don't want to come off? How about show me a fucking bill that you never paid? How about that? How about PD doing their fucking job? Show me a fucking bill that you paid that's legitimate. Show me. But they don't want to do it because now I'm a bitch. Now I'm a nuisance. Now I'm the fucking enemy, and you don't want to do your job. So since you don't want to do your job and you don't want your job, I'm gonna be one of these people that's picketing Congress. So you lose your fucking job because you don't want to do your job. I pay taxes. You don't have to like me to do your job. A lot of people don't like the people that they work with, but they still do their job. You don't want to do it, so therefore you're gonna lose it. NYPD. So you won't have that badge anymore to make my neighbors feel that they can walk all over me and my family. And y'all can just walk into people's shit and steal it and monitor 24/7. So I hope you got plans for after that badge. Because I know you don't believe me, but PD's going to be extinct soon enough. So keep flying on that badge of yours. Make plans for after the badge. You and your family. Ain't nobody against you doing you. But when you try to cock block other people from making a living, fuck you. You're no longer PD to me. You understand? And you're letting it be known. So all y'all setup games that ain't working over here, or y'all threats ain't working over here, I'm sorry. Somebody threatened me or come after me, I'm not running. I'm not running from them. I'm running to them to find out their business so I can air it out and let every fucking body know. So you can spread your lies all you want. It's all about drugs. It's all about you want to control the drug industry, and you're not. I'm just letting you know. That's it. Everybody, thanks for joining. Have a nice day. Appreciate it. I'm just trying to thing this video, you know, because anyway, let me end. Thanks for everything, you know. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.